Good morning, friends. So I'm back again with the new lecture today, and I hope you have done the homework for yesterday. We had used Euclid's division lemma. Yes, remember the form of Euclid's division lemma? I keep on repeating. What is the Euclid's division lemma? Any real number can be expressed in the form a is equal to bq plus r. So depending upon the b, you get the remainder. So the remainder is greater or equal to 0, but always less than b. This is Euclid's division lemma. From the Euclid's division lemma, we had the Euclid's division algorithm. Yes, and what was the algorithm? It was sequential steps of the lemma to find out the HCF. So yesterday I made you find the HCF of two numbers using the division algorithm. Also we did a few sums yesterday to show that any integer, positive integer, can be expressed in the form 2q and 2q plus 1, or as 4q, 4q plus 1, 4q plus 2 and 4q plus 3. And also I gave you the homework to find out the positive odd integer in the form 6q plus 1, 6q plus 3 or 6q plus 5. I hope you have done it. Then we moved to prime factors. Remember the video where I factorized the numbers and we wrote down every number, every composite number can be written as a product of its prime factors. Now you may change the order, but you will see that the number and the factors in the factorization remain the same. Suppose you wrote 72 is 2 into 2 into 2 into 3 into 3. Now you can write 2 into 3 into 2 into 2 into 3 whatever way, but you will see that the 2 occurs 3 times and 3 occurs 2 times. It is 2 into 2 into 2 into 3 into 3. And the practice is to write it in the ascending order. Okay? And then the last formula we did for the day was, before that we did what? From the prime factorization of numbers, we learn to find the find the HCF and the LCM. We learn to find. Yes? What is the HCF? When you get the prime factors and you arrange them in the order, the common factors with the lowest powers are taken. Lowest powers. In the HCF you take the factors which are common, but you take the lowest powers to get the HCF. And for the LCM, the common factors with the highest power and the non-common factors are also taken. So we did this, you have done in previous classes, but we revised it yesterday. So we did the finding HCF and LCM by prime factorization, and then we learnt a rule that HCF into LCM of two numbers is equal to the product of the two numbers. So once we find out the HCF, we can find the LCM by saying A upon B upon HCF of A and B. Yes? So that was mathematical. Today we are going to do a few theorems. Few very important theorems. So let us begin. Okay, let us read this theorem. What does the theorem 1.3 say? Let P be a prime number. If P divides A square, then P divides A, where A is a positive integer. Now before I move to solve this theorem or I prove this theorem, let us take a few practical examples to understand the concept well. Yes? So I will first take the practical example. What I will take, let's say A square, yes, P be a prime number. Let my prime number P be 3. And let me say A square is 81. Does P, this 3 divide 81. So 81 upon 3 is 27 and the remainder is 0. So we have that 3 divides 81. The theorem says if P divides A square, then P divides A. So if A square is 81, what is A? Whose square is 81? Then A is 9. So if P divides A square 81, P will also divide 9. 3 divided by 9. So if 81 comes in 3's table, even 9 will come in 3's table. This is the theorem. Let us try one more and see if it works. Say P equal to, what will we take? 7. 7 will be, let us take 2. Let P equal to 2. And A square equal to 144. So you know 2 divides 144, it is an even number. Now what is the square root of 144? 12. So if P divides 144, P should also divide 12. So this is the basic idea. This is the theorem. If P be a prime number, if P divides A square, then P also divides A. And we'll write in the new form now. P divides A square means what? A square upon P is a number with no remainder. Means A into A upon P, we have something like BQ plus R, but R is 0. So only BQ. So if this is the case, then A upon P we can write as CQ, some number CQ, but again the remainder will be 0. So this is the basic idea. Now we'll see this same in the theorem form. Okay? Because we have to prove it. So this was the idea to explain to you how this works. So first, let us take the number A. Now what we have learned, any positive composite number can be expressed as the product of its primes. How many primes we don't know. But let us say A is a number and the primes are P1, P2, P3 up to Pn. And this yesterday, remember for example, we took 72 is 2 into 2 into 2 into 3 into 3. So this P1 into P2 into P3. So this is the way we write A. So suppose A is a number, when you have got P1, P2 up to Pn, or P3 we write, we don't write, but up to Pn. We don't know how many factors are. So A is expressed in this way. Okay? And what is the condition? Here you can see P1, P2, P3. Here P1, P2 and P3 is the same number. Yes? But here you have taken distinct primes. The primes are distinct. Okay? So if A is this, what is A square? A square will be P1, P2 up to Pn, the whole square. So how to write that? How will we write this? We write this P1 square into P2 square up to Pn square. Okay? So this is how we are written in the theorem form. Is it clear till here? Now, what is said to us next? What is told to us? We are given now. What is given to us? So we are just represent any number A in the product of its primes. So A square is this. Now we are given that P divides A square. Means P is one of the factors of A square. Okay? Means we know that one of these factors here is P. Why do we know? Because P divides A square and there is no remainder. So P1 square, P2 square, Pn square, one of these factors is which one? P. It is given to us that P divides A square. So P is one of the prime factors of A square. Okay? But what is the prime factors of A square? I have written this. I could also write A square equal to P1 into P1 into P2 into P2 up to Pn into Pn. Now one of these factors is P. You can call any of the factor P because we are given the statement again that P divides A. P is a prime number which divides A. So one of them is P. So P is one of them. So what we have, if we take, let us say this P2 is P, because it is given that A square is divided by P, one of the factors I will say P2 was P. Okay? What I have taken here for simplicity, P2 is P. So P was the factor dividing this. So if P2 is P, then this P2 should also be P. Means P is also a prime factor of A. So if P divides A square, then P divides A also. So this is the basic fundamental theorem that P is a prime number. If P divides A square, then P divides A also, where A is a positive number. Why we have done this? You will see in a short time. We have done this because we are going to prove that root 2 is an irrational number. Now in the 9th standard you learned that root 2 is an irrational number. Why do we call root 2 an irrational number? Because when we do the division, yes, when we find the square root, are you following what I am trying to tell you? So we have done this theorem till here. Now we are going to make use of this theorem. So remember this theorem well. What is this theorem stating? If P is a prime number, if P divides A square, then P divides A also. Now in the 9th we learned that root 2 is an irrational number. So again we revise. What is a rational number? A rational number can be written in P by Q form, and a rational number is a non-terminating but recurring decimal, while an irrational number is a non-terminating, non-recurring decimal, means it cannot be written in the form P by Q. So in the 9th we learned that root 2 is an irrational number because when we convert into decimal form by the square root method, the division method, we get a non-terminating, non-recurring decimal, right? So we had in the 9th accepted that root 2 is an irrational number. Now here we are going to prove that root 2 is an irrational number and can never be expressed in the form P by Q. And how will we do that? How will we show root 2 is an irrational number? So mathematics has given us a tool, a method called the method of contradiction. So what is the method of contradiction? We will first assume that root 2 is a rational number. Assuming root 2 is a rational number, we will go to some conclusions. But if the conclusions are totally false, means our assumption is also false. So are you following? This is called the method of contradiction. Remember, this is a very important method. Some things in mathematics are only solved by this method called method of contradiction. What does contradiction mean? Exactly the opposite. So I say root 2 is a rational number. Okay? I will assume. We assume root 2 is a rational number. So if it is a rational number, it should follow certain mathematical rules. But if those rules are false, means our assumption is also false, that it is rational, and so it is irrational. So this is called the method of contradiction. So let us do now the method of contradiction and prove that root 2 is an irrational number. So this is the theorem we are going to do. We have to prove root 2 is irrational. So I told you we'll go with the method of contradiction. Yes, what is the method of contradiction? An assumption. So the proof we begin with. In the proof, let us assume, we are assuming that root 2 is rational. This is the first statement I write. Let us assume that root 2 is rational. Okay? If root 2 is rational, it can be written in which form? The P by Q form. So here we will write in another form. So then, therefore, root 2 can be written in R upon S form. The P upon Q or R upon S, where R, S are integers. Remember the statement? And S is not equal to 0. Yes? So we assume that because it is rational, it can be written in the R by S, P by Q or R by S form, where R and S are integers and S cannot be 0. Okay? Now, also remember that this is a simplified form, means after you do the cutting, you will get nothing common between the two. For example, I have got, just to explain, say I have got 12 upon 15. So 12 upon 15 is 2 into 2 into 3, and 15 is 3 into 5. What is common among them? The 3. So when I cut the 3, what remains? 2 2s are 4 upon 5. So you cannot write in this form. You have to write in the simplified form. So R by S is 4 upon 5. Is there any common factor other than 1? Common between 4 and 5? No, there is none. So we have got R by S in this form. Which form? The simplified form. There is nothing common. R by S cannot be in this form, cannot be 12 by 15. No composite. R by S is in a prime form with nothing common other than the factor 1. So this we have taken, right? Okay. Okay, this is the form. But what it said, suppose they have got common factors, then further we will, like I told you, cancel them and bring it into which form? The basic form. Okay, so here R and S were two integers, but I did the simplification and I got it in which form? A by B form, where there is no common factor other than 1. So from here what do you get? What does this imply? That B root 2 equal to A. You know this. If root 2 equal to A upon B, then B into multiplication gives us B root 2 equal to A. So, if B root 2 is equal to A, then squaring both sides, square this both sides. So, squaring both sides. Are you following this step? So we got B root 2 the whole square equal to A square. What does it imply? B into B square. What is B? Again the simplification, you know that AB raised to n equal to A raised to n into B raised to n. In the 9th you did this. So B square will get, and root 2 into root 2 is what? Root 2 into root 2 is, root 2 into root 2 is root 4, root 4 is 2. So we get 2B square equal to A square. Clear till here? 2B square equal to A square. Now, what you can see here, that A square is B square into 2. Means whatever the B is, when you get the square and multiply by 2, then you get the A square. Means A square is an even number because it is in the table of 2. So, we see that 2 is a factor. Now you can see A square. When I write the prime factors, what I do? I write the prime factors. I write here A square is written as 2 into B into B. So 2 is one of the prime factors of A square. Can you see that? 2 is one of the prime factors of A square. What I have done, you see again, I assume root 2 is rational, put it into the rational form, then I did the simplification and got it into the most simple form. Then I multiplied here and got this, squaring both the sides, you got 2B square equal to A square. So A square written as 2 into B into B. This B can be prime or composite, you don't know, but 2 is a prime number that we know. So 2 divides A square. Now what did the previous theorem tell you? If 2 divides A square, then 2 divides A also. Yes, understood this step? That was the previous theorem where we did this, and we can see that 2 is one of the prime factors of A square. But if 2 divides A square, 2 divides A also. So if 2 divides A, then A is a even number because only an even number can be divided by 2. So if A is an even number, let us say A equal to 2C. Let us assume now one more assumption. We have taken here, not assumption, we have taken in the form. So if 2 divides A square, then 2 divides A, means A is an even number. So let A is equal to 2C. So if A is equal to 2C, yes, A is equal to 2C. Now what is A equal to? A is equal to B root 2. Okay, we got A is equal to 2C. What does this imply? Squaring. A square equal to 4c square. How? A into a square. I am squaring both the sides again. So a square equal to 2 square is 4, 4c square. But a square equal to 2b square. So we have 2b square equal to 4c square. Did you follow? Which implies, I divide both sides by 2. This gets cut, 2 ones are. That b square equal to 2c square. Can you see this implication? Did you understand the steps again? Follow me. Root 2 was taken rational, simplified form taken here, squared both the sides, gave us 2b square equal to a square, so that a square. So 2 is a factor, prime factor of a square. Previous theorem we did, if 2 divides a square, 2 also divides a, means 2 has to be a even number. Squaring this, I get a square equal to 4c square. A square equal to 4c square and a square equal to even 2b square. So 2b square equal to 4c square. On the cutting I get b square equal to 2c square. So if you can see, then 2 divides b square. So what is the theorem we did previously? If 2 divides b square, then 2 also divides b. If 2 divides b square, you can see if 2 divides b square again, then 2 divides implies 2 divides b also. If 2 divides b, then b is also an even number. So we had shown that 2 divides a square, so 2 divides a. You showed here 2 divides a. A is an even number. 2 divides b also, rightly showed here, means 2 is the common factor between a and b. We have just shown that 2 is the common factor between a and b. So a and b have at least one common factor 2. But we had assumed that there is no common factor between A and B other than 1. Did we assume that? Here when we took this, we showed there is no common factor between A and B other than 1. But now we are getting that 2 divides A and 2 divides B. So 2 is a common factor between A and B. So this is not possible. This is a contradiction. And this contradiction is because our assumption was wrong. So this assumption is false. So 2 is not rational, but 2 is irrational. So we have proved this theorem by using which method? The method of contradiction. This sum or this theorem can be asked in the board exam and you should be able to write fully. This is given in the book. Yes, you will write it as it is given in the textbook. I have tried to make it simple for you. Again, I will revise one more time the whole theorem. Be important. Understand the steps. We have to prove root 2 is irrational. We assume that root 2 is rational because we are doing path of contradiction. So if root 2 is rational, can be written in P by Q form. I have written R by S form. But R by S can have some common factors. So I simplified it and made it into A by B form where there is no common factor other than 1. Then on multiplying I get B into root 2 equal to A. Squaring both the sides, b square, root 2 into root 2 is root 4, that is 2. So 2b square equal to a square. So when I written here, this chap is not given in the book, but I written for your understanding. A square has got factors 2 into b into b. This b can be composite of prime, you leave it, but you see the 2. So 2 is a factor of a square. Previous theorem told if a prime factor divides a square, it also divides a. So if 2 is a factor of a square, 2 divides a. Also means 2 is a even number. So because 2 divides a, I have written that a equal to 2c. Then I squared this, so I got a square equal to 4c square. But a square equal to 2b square. So 2b square equal to 4c square. So you got b square equal to c square. Means 2 is a factor of b square. That implies 2 is a factor of b also. So 2 divides b. So 2 is a factor of a and 2 is a factor of b. Since 2 is a factor of both a and b, we have got one common factor. So this assumption that there is no common factor is wrong, means our main assumption is wrong. So root 2 is an irrational number. Okay. So now what I will do is leave you some homework. Okay. The homework I am going to leave to you is do what? So very little homework is given to you, but I want you to do it so thoroughly that you can be able to do it with the book closed now. So root 2 is irrational is given in the textbook. If you don't have the textbook, I have proved it for you. Root 3 is irrational is also given in the textbook. Yes, one was a theorem and the other one is an example. Yes, it is example by number 9. Root 3 is irrational. Using the same technique, I want you to prove that root 5 is also irrational. Okay, the steps will remain the same. Write down the same steps and show that root 5 is also irrational. And try to do it with your books closed. Is it clear to you? Try to do it with the book closed. Now we'll do another type of sum, but note down this homework. So I put the homework on one side so you can write it down. So this will be asked for almost 3 marks. These sums are asked for 3 marks. But there are certain sums which are asked for 1 mark only. So we'll try to see the sum having 1 mark. Show that 5 minus root 3 is irrational. Now you understand this sum. This sum, prove root 2 is irrational, prove root 3 is irrational, prove root 5 is irrational, is asked for 3 marks. This is asked for 1 mark. Now if this is asked for 1 mark, you can show it in a very simple way. If it is asked for 4 marks, if this sum is asked for 4 marks, you have to first show that root 3 is irrational, and after proving this, you have to prove this. So you have to see the marking scheme here. What do you have to see here? You have to see the marking scheme. So what does the marking scheme mean? If this is asked for 1 or 2 marks, don't do this, leave it. But if this is asked for 4 marks, then first you will have to show root 3 is irrational, and after showing this, you will have to prove this. So that depends upon the sum. But how do we prove this again? By the method of contradiction. So what is the method of contradiction? Let 5 minus root 3 be rational. Okay? So if it is rational, we can write it in the simplified form. What is the simplified form? A by b, b is not equal to 0. The simplified form. Okay? So what do you get here? 5 minus a by b equal to root 3. What I did, I took the a by b on this side and root 3 on that side. Yes? Now what do you get here? What did you understand? Here in the equation we can write now root 3 equal to b into 5, 5b minus a upon b. Yes? Now when we wrote here a by b, they are integers where b is not equal to 0. So b is an integer, so b into 5 is an integer. The subtraction is an integer and this is an integer. So this is in which form? Or you could do it here also. A by b is a rational number, 5 is a rational number. So subtraction of 2 rational numbers is a rational number. So this is rational, but we showed that root 3 is irrational. Because root 3 is irrational, this cannot be rational. Since this cannot be rational, our assumption is wrong. So this is an irrational number. Okay, so what we got? Look here, this is a rational number, this is a rational number. So if this is a rational number, then this has to be a rational number. But we showed here that root 3 is irrational number, so this number will also be an irrational number. That is the method of contradiction. Yes, it is example 10 in the book, but I hope you have understood. Now it is the marking scheme. Ask for 1 mark, you only do this many steps. And write down. What you have to write down? Since here, you have to write down 5b minus a upon b is rational, so root 3 should be rational. Yes, but what we write? Root 3 is irrational. Root 3 is irrational. Because root 3 is irrational, then our assumption that 5 minus root 3 is rational is wrong. So 5 minus root 3 is irrational. Okay, is it clear? So I will also write a little more homework. I will add a little to the homework, some sums from the textbook. So I have added 2 more sums to the homework. Can you see? So you have got 4 sums for homework. Prove root 3 is irrational. That you have to do in the same method in which we did the theorem to prove root 2 is irrational. Also try one more, prove root 5 is irrational. Yes, you will prove it by the theorem method only, the long method. But the next 2 sums show 3 root 2 is irrational and show 3 plus root 5 is irrational has to be done by this short method. So this is a 1 or a 2 mark method, but if asked as a 4 mark sum, you have to first prove this theorem. In this sum, you have to first prove in this you have to first prove root 2 is irrational and then prove this sum. In this sum, you have to first show root 5 is irrational. If asked for 4 marks, but they are not asked, they are only asked for 1 mark like this. And this can be asked as 3 marks, so there you have to do the whole, prove that exercise. Yes, I hope I'm clear to you. Revise the video one more time, go through it, learn to write correctly, practice well. We are preparing for an examination, so be very thorough with it, right? Okay, thank you. Let's finish here today.